welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I've got some fun home decor crafts ready for you, coming your way. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Why did I say ready for you? I don't know. That's a new one. It's not part of my usual lineup. Today we'll be working on some spring farmhouse rustic home decor. So let's get started with project number 1. For this project, these are the fabrics I'm going to use. Now this bottom piece is a quilt I bought online, I think at Wayfair's open box, like $21 for twin size. And these two fabrics came from Hobby Lobby. They should be out about now. And this is some vintage crochet trim that I have, so that staining on there's vintage. I didn't accidentally, stain it. And then I've got a pattern I'm going to be using here and a heart. This is supposed to be like a birdhouse type pillow we're going to make. I do have a free printable for you online. It's got the directions on the front, of course. And then the pattern, it's going to come in 2 pieces. So there's one A and one B. You tape them together at the dash line. And then once you tape it together, it's half of a pattern. Okay, so basically it's like this one folded in half. So there's 2 options you can do here. If you want like the whole pattern, you don't want to work with it folded in half, you can take this, trace it onto some poster board, half of it, flip it, trace the other half, and then cut it out whole. Otherwise, you have to work with half of the pattern on a fold of a fabric, okay? And then, of course, you're going to cut out the heart pattern. It's one piece. So here's what I've done on this quilted backing. If you make it a whole pattern, you're going to cut out 2 like this. If you make it, you're using half a pattern, you have to cut on the fold. You have to fold your fabric in half is basically what it means. Place the pattern here where it says on the fold, on the main pattern you'll get, and then you're going to cut it out this way and then unfold it, and of course you'll have one piece like this, and you're going to have to do that twice. So basically when you work with half a pattern, you have to work with it on folded fabric to cut it out, or if you make a full new pattern on poster board, then you don't have to fold your fabric. Is that understandable? So I've got 2 pieces for this. Now I do want to make another piece with the same pattern for the top. So what I've done here it is already cut out, is I use the same pattern piece and I just cut it about a 1/2 inch shorter all the way around. You could trace this pattern out twice and make a second pattern and just make it a little bit smaller if you want, okay? So if that's easier for you than just kind of eyeballing it and cutting it out by hand. Now this fabric I've cut 2 pieces because it's kind of see-through, but you really only need 1. You need 2 for the back, 1 for this, and then for the heart as well I cut out 2 pieces, but you really only need 1. A lot of times if it's thin or even not thin, I just like the thickness of it. Now I've also cut batting for this. It's just thin batting by the yard. You could get at Walmart. All right, I cut it for the heart and for this top piece here. I cut 2. You could cut 1. You don't have to cut any. It's just how you like it. With 2 pieces of batting, see kind of the thickness here? I like that look. And then the 2 pieces of batting on the heart makes it thick as well. So it's your choice if you want to add batting to make it look a little bit thicker looking quilted. And of course you don't need any batting for the main pillow part. Now the measurements on the main pillow, the length is 18, the shorter end is 11 1/4, and from this tip to this tip it's 13 inches. Just an FYI for you. So let's first move into those of you that are gluers. You can use like Beacon Fabri-Tac glue, any fabric glue or hot glue would work for you. So I'll show you what to do here first, and then we'll move into the sewing part of it. If you're a gluer and you're using batting, 1, 2 pieces, glue your batting together. We're working on the heart here. Glue your heart fabric to that batting and then glue that whole ensemble down onto that first fabric. If you don't want to use batting, then just glue that heart fabric onto that first fabric of our birdhouse. And then you're going to do the same thing with this portion. You're going to glue your batting all together, glue your fabric down all together, and then, or with or without batting, and then you're going to glue that whole ensemble down to your main pillow portion, okay? Now next we're going to add our lace up at the top, here. So I'm going to do it in 1 piece, all right? And I'm just going to do it on the top. I'm going to fold it in the center like this and then bring it down. You could do it in 2 pieces if you want, and then I'm going to slope the edges just like the shape of the slope is on the fabric. And if you're a gluer, you can just glue that down, 1 or 2 pieces. All right, now if we're a sewer, we're going to move on into us sewers. I want to sew around the heart, but I don't want to sew it with the batting to that first fabric with the other batting. It's way too thick. So I'm only going to sew the heart and the lace here, okay, onto the layer of the fabric only, excluding the batting. We'll add the batting in a minute. So I'm going to kind of pin down my crochet lace at the top. All right. And then I'm only going to, for now, sew the bottom part of the lace, if that's understandable. Because when we sew the whole ensemble to the back pillow, we'll end up going around the top part of that lace. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and sew the heart on. I'm using a size 14 needle. Again, I've got the heart, 2 pieces of batting, and I'm messing only with the fabric underneath first. I'm not adding the batting of that fabric underneath yet. We'll do that in a minute, okay? That way it's not too thick for your needle and stuff to go through. Because then that's, 4 pieces of batting and then your fabric, that kind of thing. So just sewing around the heart. I'm probably about a 1/2 inch seam allowance here, because if I come in a little further, it'll really allow that border of that heart and stuff to kind of pop up a little bit with that larger seam allowance. But you can do how you want to do it, all right? Now here I am. I'm only sewing at the bottom portion of the lace for now. Again, when we sew the top, when we sew this whole ensemble to the pillow base and we add the batting there, we'll sew that top edge of that lace in a minute, okay? This will help, keep our lace in place, of course. So here it is all done. I've got my heart sewn on. I've got the bottom edge of my lace only here. Now we're going to add in our batting. We'll just lay this on here, and then we'll lay this whole ensemble onto the pillow base, just one piece of the pillow base, okay? And we're going to sew around that whole perimeter. Just one piece here, not the bottom yet. I'll go ahead and do that off camera, and here's what it looks like on the back side, sewing that piece. You can see all the way around. It's probably about 1 inch in, all the way around. All right, now before we move on to the next step, gluers and sewers, I want to put a button here. So this is optional. I want to work the button for a minute, only because the gluers kind of need to move ahead here. Use a big round button. Now this one here, I actually cut with my XTool M1 machine. You could add a heart. I did the same thing here. I cut with my XTool M1 machine. I'll leave the link down below to my initial video. This is a great investment. Love it. I need to punch some holes in my heart since that's what I want to use. So I just use my crocodile here, punched a couple of holes. And then if you're a gluer, you can add some twine through the center of whatever button you want to use, whatever shape you want to use, cut off the excess and then go ahead and glue that on. Sewers, will come back to the step in just a minute. Now, both gluers and sewers, let's assemble our full pillow here. So if you're a gluer, you put your 2 pieces of main pillow together, and you're going to come right along the edge between the 2 pieces, and you're going to glue all the way around close to the edge, and you're going to come to a point where you leave probably about a 5-inch opening for stuffing. Sewers, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to sew all the way around the edge. I come about a 1/4 inch in, and I sew around the perimeter. I hold up all that secondary fabric. It's easy to kind of hold up out of the way so you don't get it stuck, in your sewing process here as you're sewing both of the pieces together, and just continue all the way around somewhere wherever you want, leaving about a 5-inch opening for stuffing your pillow, okay? So nice and easy. I'll continue the rest of this off camera here. All right, once we're done, gluers and sewers, we're all in the same place. Our pillows are all sewn together. We have an opening, but here's one more option for you. I want to kind of distress my fabric a little bit. So I like to use a little piece of sandpaper here. It's like 120 grit, and I just sand along the edges of that fabric. And see how it kind of frays the edges? You can see the clean edge on the right, the frayed on the left. If you like this look, continue on with it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to just kind of fray the edges of that fabric. The one in the back is already kind of frayed, but if it's not, you could fray that too. I'll just fray it a little bit just to give it a little bit more, and it just kind of gives it a little bit of a rustic look, okay? Now, it's time for everybody, if you've done that portion, to stuff our pillow. I like to use these. It's a standard queen pillow you can get from Walmart. It's like $3.44. Way cheaper than going to the craft section, getting the same amount and having to pay $15 for some stuffing. So that's what I do. That's how I buy my stuffing. And so whatever you choose, whichever brand of stuffing or a pillow, go ahead and stuff your pillow. Make sure you get your points in here and stuff it as full and as tight as you want, okay? And then once you get to the end, you can go ahead and, if you're a gluer, you want to glue that opening close. If you're a sewer, you want to sew that opening close. So here mine is already stuffed. I like to stuff them really tight. This is what it looks like. My end is all sewn. Sewers, I'm going to use a long doll needle, And gluers, if you want to do this option too, you certainly can. They come in like a 5-pack at Walmart. They're like upholstery needles. I called it a doll needle, but they're upholstery needles. I'm going to use some crochet thread here and one of these long upholstery needles because we have a really thick area we need to go through, right? I'm going to take both threads together and tie them in a knot so it's a nice hefty knot at the end. I kind of double knot it here. Cut off the excess. I don't want too much string hanging because you will see it off the back. Right, I'm going to figure out where I want to place my button, and I'm going to come through the back side here with this long upholstery needle, and I think they're like a couple of dollars with the 5-pack. I'm going to come through the back, poke it all the way to the front and through the hole, and I'm going to pull it nice and taut there, okay? And then I'm going to come over and through the other hole right here, making sure my heart's in the area I want it. And I'm going to poke it all the way through to the back side. Now, since I'm using crochet thread, I'm going to pull it nice and taut so that that heart looks kind of indented there. I'm using crochet thread and my holes are a little bit big, so I'm going to come back through a second time. You don't have to if you use a thicker thread or whatever, but I'm going to do the same thing, come back through a second time, and as I'm pulling my thread through the holes of the button and through the back, I pull it kind of taut. See, you can see it nice and taut in there, and on the back side has a little indent. And I'm just going to cut my thread off and tie a couple of knots here. 3 or 4 knots, I think. Maybe 5. And then cut off the excess. And then that is done. Here is our cute little pillow here. Now, one more choice. I want to add some twine here. I'm going to tie it into a bow. I'm using thick twine from Walmart. If you want, you could add some beads. If I add beads, I want my tails a little longer. This is what it would look like short, but I'm going to switch to a bow here with longer tails. I'll cut off a little bit, and I'm going to add a couple of beads here. These are just beads I got at Dollar Tree. All right, so one last little decorative touch if you want. All right, I'm going to figure out how long I want my tails, and then I'll tie it in a knot here and cut off the excess. And I'll kind of smoosh the end a little bit. Right, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. I usually like one side a tiny bit longer than the other, but that's just choice. All right, tie a knot, cut off the excess, smoosh the end, and then I'm going to take my Fabri-Tac glue and I'm going to go ahead and glue that bow down to the center of my heart, giving that little bit more decoration, and that makes this project complete. Let's move on to project number 2. For this project, I'm using just this clearance sign I got at Hobby Lobby a couple of years ago. It's around $3. It's going to be perfect. We'll kind of, lindify it up just a little bit. The thing I want to do, I'll sand this all off camera. Here it is all sanded, ready to go, because I thought trying to paint over that stripe, you'd see it. I wanted to add some actual framing around it so it's not just flat, and I started out with this framing. I used my Weaver table saw, my little mini table saw. I have a link down below for you if you want to check that out. I will show a little bit of it in my next project, but I decided it just wasn't quite robust enough, so I'm using this 1-inch square dowel that I went ahead and cut for the framing. Then I'm going to use my Waverly Anti-Wax mixed with water and my Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Drop Cloth and a free printable for you. Now, part of my quote here I'm going to do in vinyl. I'll have the fonts listed down below for you as well, those of you who have electronic cutting machines. If you don't have electronic cutting machine, you can totally just print this out onto some pretty scrapbook paper or whatever. We've done it several times. It works beautiful that way. But the other half of my quote here, the word I'm trying to get out, is I cut with my XTool M1 machine. So I've got part of it cut out in wood. If you don't have an XTool M1 machine or any type of wood laser cutter, I do have the printable in its entirety for you if you want to print that out, okay? Or if you want to, again, the fonts are in my description box if you just want to cut the whole thing out in vinyl, okay? So that set aside, I'm using that Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water. I'm using it as a stain on my framing, okay? And then I will, off camera, on this and our main piece, I will go ahead and distress it a little bit with some sandpaper, give it a little bit of more of a rustic look, okay, once everything dries. And then in the middle here, I went ahead and marked off the outer edges because I don't need to waste time painting that. And I do 2 coats here of the Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color drop cloth through the center. Right, nice and easy. But yeah, off camera, I'll just distress it and, you know, sand it how I like to do it, give it a little bit of a farmhouse rustic look. I told you we were doing farmhouse rustic today. All right, next section here. Everything is all distressed. I'm going to go ahead on the right side and put my vinyl down. All right. Again, you can totally just print this whole thing out onto some cardstock and then lay your cardstock down, glue it down with a little bit of that edging of paint around it. Like I said, we've done that many times before. All right, once that vinyl is down, it's where I want because I thought it'd be easier to put it on before I put the framing on there. I'll go ahead and use my Beacon Power Tack glue here and get my framing on. I was going to use wood glue and I'm like, I'll just use the Power Tack glue. It sets up in like 10 minutes. You can move it around, mess with it, whatever, and then it takes a full 24 hours to cure. All right, so I've got one more piece to go here. It fits nice and tight. My little Beaver mini table saw cut those to perfection. I love it. It's so lightweight. Oh, I just love it. Again, I'll have a link down below for you if you want to check out that initial video. All right, and then I'm going to just use super glue here. I've got it on the back of my woodward. I did that because the super glue has like a tinier little tip because as you can see, the font for my woodward here is very fine. So I'm just using that. All right, now once everything's dry, ready to go, I've got a couple of fan brushes here, and I've got a black and a pink chalk paint mixed with water. And what I'm going to do is I dip my fan brush into the chalk paint, wipe off the excess, and then I just hit that fan brush and splatter a little bit. I'm going to splatter onto the frame as well because eventually it's going to get on there, so we'll make it look like we meant to do that in the first place, just a little bit. I'll do the same with the pink paint, that same process. And once I do that, that makes this project complete. Let's move on to our last project, number 3. For this project, I'm using all these wood slices from Dollar Tree. I've got 2 oval ones here. I wish they had more because I want to make more of this project. I love it that much. And I have 6 of these straight ones. They're just like wood planks here. All right, that's what it says. Wood slices here. And the first thing I'm going to do on the 6 straight wood slices is I want to cut off about 3.5 inches of each one. I'm just going to cut that off. One of the pieces, I'll save a little piece for a sign for this. And then on the other end, I want to make it kind of like an oval shape all the way around. We want to make this look like flower petals. I don't care if my shape's a little off or a little askew. That just makes it cute and whimsical. So I'm going to do that on all 6 of these slices. All right. And then on 2 of them, I'm going to have to come at a diagonal like this, and I'll show you why. This is the way I'm doing it. It's so my boards can all kind of sit flat on the first layer. So 2 of them, I'm going to do a diagonal. All right. So here's my Beaver mini table saw. So lightweight, I can carry it out with one hand and boom, just like that. It cuts a nice straight edge. I turn my table saw off and on in between because there's no automatic shut off, and I don't want to get my fingers in there. I'm keeping my fingers nice far away, keeping everything protected. I'll cut a few boards here, as you can see. And then here's my two pieces. I went for a little bit deeper angle cut here, and I'll cut two on that angle. So I'm going to cut 1 and 2, and the way I do that's that little counter below that I'm holding onto. It's got a little knob, and you turn it to angle it and tighten it, and it'll hold your wood in place the way you need to do an angle. A couple of my wood pieces are a little bit too wide, so I'm going to cut one end off, and that's okay if the bark's not on there. We'll fix that, okay? We'll make it look like we did it intentional. Now what I'm doing is taking my jigsaw, I'll just show you on one here, and I'm just using it to cut my petal shape at the end. Nice and easy to do. I'll do that on all 6 boards, and I know you're looking at my bunny slippers down below. I had to point them out. They are too stinking cute. I love my bunny slippers. Anyway, now what I'm doing here is taking my electric sander, and I'm just making everything smooth. And on some of my petals, I didn't get quite a round shape. I wasn't worried about it because I knew I could smooth off if it would looked a little bit square or whatever. Again, I don't care if the petals are, some are skinnier, some are a little bit weird in shape. I want it that way. Now I'm using my Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water here, and I'm going to stain the front and back of both my wood slices. I just show one here, but staining the front and back. And as you notice, we didn't have to do any cutting or anything to the wood slice. We're doing it as it is. And taking my Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Drop Cloth, just one coat, front and back. I just want it to just have a really light color, not wood color, but a light color. That's why I went ahead and, because you could just leave them unpainted if you want. Then once everything is dry, I'll come in with my electric sander again and just distress like around the edges and try to get a little bit of that wood to show. So like here, it makes that stain kind of pop up a little bit more. And you're not going to notice a lot of the paint coming off onto the flower petals because I use such a light color. But again, I didn't want it just wood color, but you could paint it any shade of paint that you want. But I wanted it to have some color. Anyway, so I'm just kind of distressing around the edges, front and back of both those, because you all know I like my front and back to look finished off. Now I'm going to use some nails here. They're all the little short nails except 2 that are really long, and I'm doing that for a reason. So I'm putting the 2 in first. They're really long because I'm going to wrap some wire around them later to hang a cute little mini sign that, we used one of the excess piece of wood slice that we cut off one of our petals. I cut one just a little bit shorter for a sign. And then I'm going to take those shorter nails. They're probably 1/2 inch, maybe they're 3/4 inch. And just, about 1 inch apart, I'm going to go around. They don't go through the wood at all. They're just the right length. And so maybe they are 1/2 inch. Because I leave a little bit sticking up. I'm just going to go around the perimeter in the middle as well, and I'm just going to fill the whole thing to make it look like it's stamen through the center and give us a nice rustic look. And no, it's not my idea. I saw this on Pinterest and thought it was super cute. Now what I'm going to do is take some brown paint mixed with water and my fan brush and adding some splatters on both of my wood slices. And then I'm going to take black paint mixed with water and add some splatters here as well, front and back of my petals. Okay, and then I do have another pink paint we're going to splatter in a little bit. So I'm going to use this Beacon Power Tack glue again, and I'm taking my 2 pieces of wood slice that I angle cut. I'm going to add some glue on the side, and I'm going to press it right next to a regular flower petal shape. All right, one's going to be on top, one's going to be on the bottom. They're going to be opposite of each other. I'm doing this the easy way. And then I'm taking my 2 petals. See how the one side I had to cut off that doesn't have bark? So what I did is I made sure that bark was on one end of one side and the bark was on the opposite end of the other side. I traced around them so I knew where they were going to fit onto these 4 petals here, so I can add my glue and then I'll put them into place. Okay, and I'm going to let that dry about 10 minutes. Once that's dry, I've now got it flipped over to the bottom. I'm going to add the wood slice without the nails in it. I'm going to trace where it's going to lay on those 4 bottom flat petals. And then I'm going to add my Power Tack glue here. Again, sets in 10 minutes, so I was able to move it around, add my wood slice on the bottom, and now I was able to flip that over after 10 minutes, and we're going to do the same thing on the front. We're going to trace around the wood slice, add our Power Tack glue, and place our wood slice down. Now, once all that's dry, I'm going to add some moss here. And then I've got some Dollar Tree crochet trim. This is optional. Both of these are optional, but we've got a hole there. I would at least add the moss. And we're just going to add some moss in that hole. So the top portion, I'm going to have it like moss come in that hole. And then over to the left side, just a little bit. It'll hide any glue that might have leaked out or anything like that. Make it look cute. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom into that hole where I can stuff the moss. And we're going to hide our hole. And I'll do a little bit to the left side, some on the right, but it's pretty well going to be covered anyway. But all right, so you could leave it just like this at this point, but I thought it would be cute to add, you know, a couple of little strips of that crochet trim and just kind of tuck it under the moss, gather it up a little bit, glue it, just to kind of give it a little bit of a sweet kind of country look. Again, this is optional, but I just think it looks really cute. And you can see the color kind of matches our paint, right? So it doesn't really stand out a whole lot. So it's just there kind of subtle. I'll do top and bottom here. Right? However much you want. I just think it adds. Anyway, that's my thing on the matter. Now I'm taking a big piece of wire here. I just cut a big long piece, wrap the paintbrush around one to make one curly cue, and then I'm going to, here's my little sign I cut. I painted it as well with the drop cloth, and I'm going to take the wire, the curly cue is going to kind of go in the center, and I'll take each end of the wire and wrap it around those two little bit longer nails that I placed in here. Remember, that's why I did that. They're a little longer to wrap around. Now it's not really tight. It's just, it'll help hold it, but when you get the sign on, you get the wire through the wood and all that, it'll hold just fine. Now what I've got here, I've cut a piece of paper and sewed around it like I usually do, sewing around my papers. And I'm going to open into my scissor blades and scrape along the edges. And then I've got a little vinyl quote here. And I made four different options. You can see in the upper right corner here, some are with arrows and some without. But they are a little bit small, depending on your sign. But this last option I'm using, I enlarged it a little bit more because it was a little bit hard to weed. So small. I'm like, nope, I'm out. So I made it larger so it was easier to weed. But you got lots of options when you go to my blog and click on that particular PDF. So a little tale from Bella here as she walks through. I've got that vinyl on, and then I'm going to put that cardstock onto my wood sign. And now here's my pink paint I talked about earlier. I'm going to just splatter a little bit onto the sign, and I do splatter a little bit on the petals. Now I'm taking a really small drill bit, and I am drilling some holes on either side at the top of our little sign here. Just doing it over twine. That worked well for a base to drill into. And see kind of where I want to get my wire through, how short I want it to get my wire through my holes here, and cut off the excess. And I'm just going to take some jewelry pliers here and kind of twirl my wire around and smush it down to the sign. Gives it a little bit of a country look, and I'll do that on both sides. Twirl it around it so it rounds it, and then smush it down to the hole. And it covers your hole too. And then I'm going to place it on those two longer nails. Now you can leave it like this, but it's a little floppy. So I want to take up that space in here, right? Optional, couple of those Jenga blocks or tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree I glued together and painted around the edges so it looks nice. And I'm going to go ahead, and it's small so you won't really see it a whole lot. And I'm going to power tack it down to the bottom petal here, add a little on top, place my sign on it onto the nails, and that makes this project complete. So I hope you liked all the projects today. Leave me a comment down below and let me know which one was your favorite. My favorite has got to be this flower, and I really want to make a couple more, but our Dollar Tree is out of all these wood slices, and I just like the ease of this wood slices. It was so easy to work with, but hopefully they get some more in because I would love to make some for a spring show. Anyway, give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow. And if you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out and you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another video from me. Now, before I go, I'm going to leave you one final thought. Because of a past hurtful conflict, it can be difficult to see your own faults that derive from that situation, and it's definitely easier to point out the faults of the other person involved. Why is that? Could it be something stemming from the conflict that hasn't left your heart? Something perhaps that was never resolved? Maybe it's buried deep down inside, and every once in a while it rises up. You acknowledge it, you pray about it, but eventually you push it back down and tuck it away. But when this hurt makes its way to the surface, you're forced to think about the conflict again, and those thoughts that you've been harboring present themselves in the form of anger that allows you to focus on all those faults that you believe the other person carries. In the Bible, the book of Matthew, chapter 7 and verse 5, it says, "Remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." In simple terms, Jesus warns against the hypocrisy of seeing flaws in another person while ignoring the obvious flaw in yourself. And isn't it interesting that Jesus warns you to remove your plank so that you can clearly see their speck? This large size plank is a much bigger obstacle that needs God's help first in order to find forgiveness. Also in the Bible, the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 1 and 2, paraphrased, it says, "Not to judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same manner you use, it will be measured to you." So why do you allow your hurt or anger to continue to count their flaws? By continuing in this thought process, it will keep reminding you of your own role during the conflict and bring up those painful thoughts on your end every time. No matter the cause or effect, it's time to let go. It's time to forgive. You can't continue to find fault in the other person to make you feel better about what happened. By continuing this, it will keep reminding you of failures that you might be feeling, and it won't allow God to bring about forgiveness. When you continue to harbor these thoughts, you aren't allowing God to help you. Even though it won't be easy, you must lay down any blame or anger you feel with how you handled anything and any ill judgment you may feel about the other person at the feet of Jesus. Allow God to remove your plank so that you can see their speck and begin to repair the brokenness that you feel. Allow God's love to take control and heal your pain. Yes, it is possible that the other person may continue to harbor their own feelings of hurt and anger, but trust and pray that God will take hold of their heart in His perfect timing to bring about their own healing that they need as well. God will not fail you, and His ways of helping you will never fail. By letting go of the hurt and allowing God to intervene, you will know without a doubt that you did all you could do to let God heal you from within. And as you heal, the forgiveness will come. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.